Hey guys, welcome back to the homestead. My dog is chasing a fly. Um, Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to our homestead. Today we have something exciting happening. It is summer, and that means that not only is the garden a garden again, but we are also getting produce, and that is also true for other local farmers, gardeners, and producers. Let me show you what I got. All right. Got a big O box of peaches. Now I have shared some of these peaches with some family, but we obviously still have quite a few left to go. Now, yes, some of these are going to be for fresh eating because who doesn't love peaches and cream? However, I am going to be preserving some of these. And how am I going to do that? It's by actually making preserves. Now, what are preserves? So you have jellies, you have jams, and then you have preserves. A jelly requires a lot of pectin. It usually involves a fruit juice. Some of them will have actual bits of the fruit in it as well, but it has a lower, like the meat of the fruit count. Whereas you have a jam, and a jam has pectin, fruit, and sugar in it. Now, jellies, you can have a little bit less sugar sometimes in, depends upon the recipe. Same with the jam. Then you have a preserve. The preserve is going to be straight up fruit and sugar. The sugar, believe it or not, is what helps keep and retain the texture. That's why preserves are thicker. That's also are thicker. I can't speak today. That's also why jams tend to be thicker as well compared to a jelly. Jelly is a little bit more, well, okay, I don't eat jelly. The reason I don't eat jelly is because I think it has the texture of snot. So in this house, we keep jams and preserves for that reason primarily. Not everybody feels that way about jelly, but there you go. Jelly, you can have a little bit lower sugar ratio. Jam, you can have a lower sugar ratio. With a preserve, it's just going to be good old-fashioned sugar and fruit. But I'm going to go on ahead and get started by removing the skins on these guys. Well, we're going to wash and then remove the skins. So I'm going to get these over to the sink, get them washed, cleaned up, and then I will show you what I am going to do to remove the skins. Okay, here we go. Okay guys, so obviously our water's boiling. I've gotten our fruit cleaned off, and now we're gonna go on ahead and start putting our peaches in here. And all this is going to do, we are literally just putting the fruit in there for 1 to 2 minutes, and it's just enough not to cook the peaches or whatever fruit you're doing this to, but it's enough to loosen the skin on the outside, because I can promise you, peeling peaches is the worst thing ever. They get slimy and mushy in your hands, and it's just a pain in the rear end. So this is really the way to go, at least for me anyway. If you know of another way to get the peel off of a peach without having to do this, please share it down below, because this is the only method that I know of that at least makes it not so complicated and difficult and time consuming. So I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to turn you around real quick, get you into position so you can see this process. All right? Right, so they've had a little bit of time to cool at this point, and I've got my trash can right here. So this is just my normal process. I stand here and we're gonna start peeling these guys and then putting the skin into the trash can. And when you go to pick them up at this point, let me see if I can get you close here without blurring the image. Can you see how the skin is kinda wrinkling like that? Yeah, there we go, there we go. See that? Okay, so it has released from the fruit. And so I can literally just pinch it and begin pulling it off. Now, it's gonna be a messy affair. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is messy. But it's a lot less messy than if you or I were actually using a peeler. So we're just going to take it off like that. And there's the skin, okay? And boom, we're done. So there we go. That's our peach, perfectly skinned, I might add. Oh, also, side note, if you do it this way, you also waste less of the fruit. I cannot talk today, guys. I'm so sorry. So you waste less of the fruit. The peeling process, especially, you see how wet that is and how juicy? With a peach, you're going to end up taking some of the fleshy meat, which is what you want to either dry or to use in your jelly, jam, or preserve. And there's no sense in wasting good fruit meat, in my opinion. I have diced up our peaches. So we are working on the preserves now. We've got the dehydrator going. That's going to be the sound in the background. So dun, 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 she is working right there. And I am quite literally beginning to add the sugar to the peaches. So generally, as far as sugar ratio goes when it comes to preserves, even more so than jams, some jams can be a little higher in the sugar content, but it's almost equal, almost. So here I have 5 cups of peaches, chopped, diced. I just literally cut it, all the flesh that I could get off of the little core and in here, because I like having bits and pieces of the fruit. I really enjoy that on toast, on bagels, on scones. If you do not prefer that sort of a texture element, you will probably want to dice these down a little bit more uniformly and probably smaller so that it's a little bit smoother. You do you, I'll do me. So now all I am going to do is basically wait on the heat and on the sugar to start melding into a very, very lovely little base. Now, the other thing that I did add to this that I didn't mention was the juice of 1 lemon. And most citruses, I think almost all citruses, are really, really high in naturally occurring pectin. I don't really need a whole lot of pectin, and I definitely don't need enough to warrant opening up a package. So I just squeezed in here a whole lemon, and since we're adding in sugar and this is already sweet, I'm really not worried about it being too tart. The other thing that you can also add to recipes if you're looking for a naturally occurring pectin is apple. There are some jam recipes that will have you shave an apple really, really finely and incorporate that into this stage, the fruit stage, to have a natural pectin source if you don't have a boxed variety. All of that having been said, I have I got a lot of juice here. These peaches are so juicy, guys. I kept having to dump the board with the juice. Anyway, so I have approximately 6.5-ish cups of peaches. So if you don't have a scale, I do recommend that you get yourself a kitchen scale. They come in handy. But if you don't have one, that's okay. What is not okay is my size pot. I have a bad habit of underestimating pot sizes. I'm going to confess that. We'll go with the big guy. Alright. So yeah. Definitely invest in a kitchen scale to help you with this sort of a recipe. You don't necessarily need one. You can definitely work without it. It may be a little bit more challenging in some cases, depending upon your recipe. I try to keep my recipes really, really simple so that I don't have to buy equipment that I don't absolutely need. We try not to keep too much extra equipment just because storage space is limited. Okay, so beginning of this, we had 1 cup of sugar in here. I've gone on ahead and added 2 more to this mixture. And I am literally just stirring it in and waiting for the heat to start breaking everything down. If you are new to preserving, one of the other things that you can do is you can go on ahead and skin your peaches. Lay them out on a baking tray lined with parchment or wax paper, whichever you have, and spread them out on that baking tray and put them in the freezer. And then put them in a bag. This is a really good thing to do if you are short on time in particular. So if you don't have the time to do all of the prep work, and then on top of it, do the canning, whole canning process, I get you, I feel you right there. It can take an entire day to do. So you do want to go ahead and prudent plan that way. But doing the freezer method, you can just freeze the fruit and then take it out, completely defrost it. You'll want to make sure it's at room temperature and that all of the fluid has drained off, so you'll want to put it in a strainer. And then do it later. So say I went out on a Monday and I have to work all week, I can go on ahead and take all the skins off, slice everything, throw them in the freezer that Friday night or that Monday night, and then Friday, if I'm off, I can go on ahead and start working on this, or Saturday if you work Monday through Friday. You can go on ahead and do this part of the process. Alright, so this is literally just going to be a waiting game where I'm going to be standing over the pot, stirring, making sure that everything is coming together. I just added another cup of sugar, and I'm just going to add it in increments here to make sure that I get all of the sugar broken down. I don't want to have any sugar granules just hanging around in my pot. So I'm going to go on ahead and switch you over to hyperlapse so that you don't get too bored here. This is a good time for you personally to, I don't know, listen to an audiobook. You could actually even read a book standing here watching your pot or preserves boil. All right, so let me switch you over to hyperlapse. Alright, so I'm going to go on ahead and leave you in this position, not looking at me. I'm going to increase the heat here until we get more of a boil so that we can start getting this to gel. The main thing with the tempering is just to prevent some scorching. That's just something I've noticed with having done this more than one time. So I just prefer to start at a low medium heat and then kick it up after we start getting the fluid coming up and we start getting more of that foaming, because that tells me that the sugars and everything have incorporated and the peaches are ready to start really breaking down in the mixture. The other thing too is you'll have seen on the hyperlapse, I went on ahead and I added 2 more lemons to this, so that makes a total of 3 for the 6.5 cups of peaches that we've got here. And peaches tend to be really sweet. Granted, we do need the sugar to help with the gel process in here, but I don't want my preserves overly sweet. So I went on ahead and just added 2 more in. It's not gonna hurt anything. You really don't get any specific lemon flavor out of it. So that's why I went on ahead and did that. Just give it a little bit more of a bite and to cut the sugar aspect. All right, so let's get you back to hyperlapse. All right, everyone, so at this stage, preserves are a little bit different in that with the sugar content, you can actually leave them overnight. So I don't know that I'm going to need to do that. We'll see how this goes, but it's definitely getting towards the evening here. But what I need to do is I need to allow this to cool down. So let me turn you around and show you what we've got going on here. All right, so you can see that we have definitely started to get a little bit thicker in our consistency. Now, depending upon how thickly or how thick you like your preserves is going to determine this next bit. But I'm going to let this rest for 30 minutes. Roughly. I'm going to bring it back up to a boil, let it go again, and I'm going to do that probably close to 5 times. The last time that I do it, which if I need to leave this on the counter overnight, what I can do is tomorrow evening when I come home, all I'll need to do is just bring this up to a boil, and then I can ladle it into my jars and then go with the water bath canning process that is recommended from there. It's usually about a 15 to 20 minute water bath time. If I recall correctly, I'd have to look at the recipe to confirm that. But we're going to go on ahead and let this chill out, let all of the sugars and everything work together, and then we'll come back in 30 minutes and bring this up to another boil, okay? Okay, guys, sorry, let me close this for you. It is evening. Now, I went on ahead, yeah, there we go, okay. I went on ahead and I did not take you into the whole long process of all of the cook times. So I think I had mentioned this before, but I'll go on ahead and mention again just to make sure. So you bring this, I started with a simmer and then brought it up to a boil, and it was at a boil for 10 minutes. Then at that point you let it sit for 30 minutes to an hour, or at least until room temperature. So we're talking, you can take your finger and touch it and not feel the need to move your hand because it's too warm, or your finger because it's too warm. I have done that 3 times now. And we are at the point where this needs to go into the jars, and we need to officially start the canning process, I guess you could say. So let me turn you around, and please excuse me, I'm doing this one-handed because I'm having to stir the whole time so I don't scorch it. So these are our preserves. I've done that 10-minute high boil and then hour rest 3 times, and we are down by over half, and it's looking how I want it to. So you don't have to do it 5 times unless you want it done 5 times. You do it until the thickness is and consistency is what you are looking for, and this is what I'm looking for. All right, so I'm gonna go on ahead and start heating up my jars because I have jars in here, and I need to heat the water to a simmer in there just to make sure we don't have anything bad and yucky in the jars. They're clean jars, but just to make sure. And you need the jars warm because we are going to put the warm, well, I guess you could say hot, because this is hot, boiling preserve into the jar. And if you put it into a cold jar, the jar is going to fracture and probably explode when you go to put it into do the water bath canning method, or even pressure canning. It would do the same thing. So probably another 7 minutes, and then I will have you guys back in on the process of putting the preserves into the jars. I've just got to get them to a simmer right now. All right, so I'll see you here in a little bit. Okay guys, so at this point things are going to be moving very, very quickly, and I will be needing to use both hands and not necessarily be looking at the camera, so we're going to go with this setup currently. This is about to go off as far as timer. Over here I've got, like over there, I have our jars, our mason jars that need to come out, and they have been in simmering for about 5, well, no longer than that, almost 10 minutes now. So they're going to come out, and you can find canning equipment at most grocery stores these days. There's always Amazon if you can't find otherwise. But the main thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the jars out of the water bath canner. We're going to put them here. Then I'm going to be ladling the warm preserves into the jar, and I'm just going to be doing in procession, one right after the other, as quick as I can. So I'm going to put you on hyperlapse, all right? I don't know if you can hear that. I just pulled all of the jars out of the water bath canner, and I think they've all officially popped. So that's a good thing. If you hear this metallic kind of a thing, the seal is good. So what I have to do now is leave them be for 12 to 24 hours roughly is what most recommend, which works out perfect because I will be working tomorrow, so I can deal with the remaining aspects of this, of putting them away and on the shelf, getting them dated, all of that jazz, tomorrow evening. Now, one of the things that I will say about canning is you need to take the rings off. I don't know how many of you know that, but you don't actually leave the ring on. So when you look at them, there should be glass all the way up and just that sealed little cap on the top. So all of that I will do tomorrow. I'll be doing that, like I said, dating them and then putting them on this shelf for storage. But otherwise, not a bad haul overall. We ended up getting 7 plus, turn you around here, plus this little guy, and this is going to go into the refrigerator. It'll seal fine, and I'll be opening it up for additions onto rolls and toast, and quite possibly a Dutch baby cake. That would be really phenomenal on a Dutch baby cake. I bet you anything. So I'm going to go on ahead and sign off this evening. I know this was a long day vlog. Hopefully you hung in there with me. If you didn't, I don't blame you. But if you have any questions after seeing all of this craziness, I know this probably wasn't the best kitchen video ever. It's hard when you don't have somebody operating the camera and you're needing to use both your hands in these situations. But you know, I did the best that I could. So hopefully you guys are bearing with me on this. So I'll just go on ahead and sign off here. Questions, comments, go on ahead and put them down below, guys. All right? So as always, keep it simple, natural, and essential, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.